Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. This is Rachel Puffer with GSA. I'm going to turn it over to GSA President Michal Jazwinski to start us off today.
Good morning and welcome to the Road to Austin, Mapping the Steps for GSA 2019 Abstract Submission. As Rachel mentioned, my name is Michal Jazwinski and I am the GSA President and Program Committee Chair of this year's annual scientific meeting, and I'll be your moderator today. I'm very pleased to be joined by Program Co-Chair Holly Brown-Borg from the University of North Dakota. We also have a special guest who has worked with many GSA members, John Beilenson. He's the President of Strategic Communications and Planning. As a housekeeping note, this webinar will be recorded and shared after the session, and Rachel, the GSA staff who oversees the meeting logistics, will facilitate the audience questions period. The GSA 2019 Annual Scientific Meeting will be held November 13 to 17 in Austin, Texas. GSA had record-breaking attendance last year in Boston, and we are looking to break another record with our meeting in Austin. The meeting theme is Strength in Age, Harnessing the Power of Networks. The world is a complex system that displays nonlinear behavior from cells all the way up to societies and the global population itself. This nonlinear behavior occurs because objects at every level are composed of components and, importantly, interactions between these components. One way of describing a complex system is by depicting it and analyzing it as a network. Strength in age depends on the integration that a network can provide, lending the system both robustness and resilience. Whether we are biologists, social scientists, or policy planners, or representatives of any other discipline for that matter, we should consider how to harness the power of the networks we study to maintain strength in age. You won't want to miss the opening plenary speaker, Nicholas Christakis. Nicholas A. Christakis is a social scientist and physician whose lab explores human nature. He is the co-director of the Yale Institute for Network Science. Using experiments involving many thousands of people in online networks, in developing world villages, and in for-profit firms, his group has demonstrated how social connections shape our health, wealth, productivity, and security. His startling findings present intriguing new evidence that our real-life social networks shape virtually every aspect of our lives, including aging and longevity. By applying what Dr. Christakis has uncovered about the mechanics of social networks, organizations and businesses gain useful and profitable insights in the behavior of their employees, customers, and partners. Named one of the 100 most influential people in the world by Time magazine, Dr. Christakis has also made Foreign Policy magazine's list of top 100 global thinkers. Now let's dive into the details around the call for abstracts. The submission site opens February 1st, and the deadline to submit is March 14. The GSA Annual Scientific Meeting program is developed primarily from submitted abstracts. Therefore, the success of the meeting relies heavily upon the quality of abstracts you submit, which is why we need you to submit. There is no limit to the number of abstracts you may submit, but please note, we cannot guarantee conflicts when scheduling, and the program committee tries to accept as many different people as possible onto the program for a wide variety of expertise. Being on the program allows you to strengthen your CV, gain experience presenting your research in front of an audience, expand the field of aging by promoting your research, network and collaborate with other individuals, make connections that could lead to further research and advances, and become a published author in innovation in aging. There are a lot of parts to the abstract submission process, and Holly will now discuss how best to prepare for your abstract submission.
Thanks so much, Michal. Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today. There are several steps that you can take in advance of the March 14th deadline to make the submission process relatively pain-free. So it's very important that you log in now to www.geron.org to ensure you know your username and password. These are your GSA credentials to log into the website. If you've never had any involvement with GSA, that is, never attended a meeting, received a publication, or have been a member, then you may not have an account then. You will have to create a profile before submitting an abstract. So GSA is using an online software application called Cadmium CD for the abstract submission process. This is the same software we used for the 2018 meeting. If you submitted an abstract last year, it should look very similar to you. Once you log in, please familiarize yourself with the site. The site will be available starting February 1st, which is tomorrow. I highly recommend that you gather all materials for the abstract prior to submitting and well in advance of that March 14th deadline. GSA has developed a great planning guide and worksheet for you to use. All the details required for submission are ultimately used by GSA to develop various materials for the meeting, the program book, the abstract book, and the mobile app. So the GSA annual scientific meeting has 3 different presentation types. You'll need to select one of those presentation types for the abstract that you're submitting. These are paper, poster, or symposium. For the paper submissions, a paper presentation is grouped together with 4 to 5 other abstracts and shares a 90-minute time slot for you to present. The poster presentation type is a poster that's created by the author and co-authors for display on a poster board that's 4 feet high by 8 feet wide. The poster is on display for 2 hours, and then you'll have 1 hour of dedicated face-to-face time to present as attendees rotate among the different posters within the session. The paper and poster submission types are interchangeable, and the program committee may switch your presentation type based on topic and space. So we highly recommend that you'll be willing to present either type. The third presentation type is a symposium. A symposium is organized by a chair, and it includes 2 to 5 individual symposium abstracts. Individuals must be invited by a chair to be part of a symposium. So regarding your abstracts, there are several components of an abstract. The title and there's some limitations. So the title has a limit of 100 characters, and it must be in a title case format. You should review the APA style guide prior to finalizing your title. And then 2 objectives are required. You may have up to 3 objectives, but each objective should be specific and measurable. The third component is the body for the symposium paper or poster, which provides an overview, and this may have up to 250 words. And the body for an individual symposium abstract has a limit of 150 words. The program is organized around the 4 sections of GSA: the biological sciences, behavioral and social sciences, health sciences, social research, policy and practice, as well as the Academy for Gerontology in Higher Education and interdisciplinary research. When you submit an abstract, you are applying to one of these 6 areas. For descriptions of each of those sections, you can check out the submission planning guide. So AGI, or the Academy for Gerontology in Higher Education, has been integrated within GSA, and we're really looking forward to having their programming as part of our November annual scientific meeting. If you're considering submitting an abstract to the Biological Sciences section, be sure to review the pre-organized symposium already scheduled for this meeting, which will be available on the annual meetings section of the website very soon. The interdisciplinary submission option is available only for symposium presentations at this time. So abstracts must be submitted with a session code, which functions as a keyword. Please select 1 to 2 session codes that closely align to the focus of your abstract. The session code selection is important because this is how reviewers will be assigned to your abstract, and how abstracts are grouped together into sessions, and how scheduling is completed to avoid topic overlap. The author details that are required include contact information, highest degree, and up to 3 affiliations. A CV must be uploaded, and a conflict of interest disclosure will need to be completed for all of the first authors. We really encourage that all symposium submissions include an early career scholar as a presenter or a co-chair. And with the symposium, you have the option to allow individuals to submit their own author details by sending an email through the system. If you choose this route, Everything has to be completed before you submit payment by the March 14th deadline. And all abstracts include a processing fee for submission that is non-refundable. Rachel, do we have any questions for the audience now before John begins?
This is Rachel. We do not currently have any questions, but I just want to alert people that you can submit questions through the GoToWebinar portal, and we'll answer those towards the end of the webinar.
Great. Well, thank you, Holly and Rachel. My job here is to talk to you a little bit about how to make your abstract stand out from the crowd. My name is John Beilenson, and I'm president of Strategic Communications and Planning. We're a socially responsible communications and public relations firm located just outside of Philadelphia. And we work with a variety of nonprofit organizations, foundations, government agencies, many of whom are in the aging space, to help them use communications to create a variety of social good. We've worked with GSA in a number of initiatives in the past, particularly in developmental initiatives for social workers in geriatrics as well as nursing, and we were one of the leading leaders of the GSA program around the change agents a few years back as well. So if we can go to the next slide. I can talk a little bit more directly about what I'm here to do today, which is to help you make your abstract stand out from the crowd. As many of you know, or maybe if you don't know, that GSA gets more than 3,600 abstracts for its conference each year, and it's important as reviewers are looking through scores of abstracts that yours is both relatable and readable, and enables folks who are busy and working quickly to understand immediately, almost at a glance, what your work is about and why it's so important. When we go to the next slide, please. The first part of this process, and about ensuring that your abstract stands out from the crowd, is to get the basics right. And if you are either on this webinar or listening to this webinar, you are well on your way, and you'll get the information that you need to ensure that your abstract is in the right form and style, that it has the right presentation type and length for the paper or the poster or the symposium that you're presenting. And if possible, and again, this is not always possible, but if it is possible, you're going to want to try to connect to this this year's theme, Strength in Age, Harnessing the Power of Networks, that Dr. Jazwinski mentioned. And you should certainly review not only what he just said, but what is on the website. And as the website notes, the theme seeks to answer questions such as: how will we harness social capital in the service of an aging population? How can we ameliorate cognitive decline? How can we combat decline and frailty at the cellular, physiologic, and patient level? So again, in so much as you're able to connect your research to this notion of creating strength in age and understanding or taking advantage of the power of networks, then your abstract will certainly be, will be more immediately resonant with the reviewers, and again, make your submission likely to be selected. Next slide, please. So in thinking about your abstract, the first thing we like to talk about, and this is something we talk about in not only in the development of abstracts, but in the development of papers and in journal articles, and indeed in the development of a wide range of communications tools and materials, is to understand your message, your one thing. And the framework that we use, that we think is helpful and particularly useful in this setting, is that you make sure at the beginning of the development of your abstract that you understand these three things, that you're able to complete the following three statements. The reason my research is important is, the one thing people need to know about my research is, and the implications of my research are. So just to give you an example of, around some work that we've done around advanced care planning was a group called prepareforyourcare.org, and Rebecca Sudor in the University of California, San Francisco. She recently released a paper, and this is sort of the messaging statements that we use to develop, that we developed for that research, and again, I think provides a pretty good model for you as you think about your message for your research and for your abstract. So the first thing is, the reason my research is important is that advanced care planning is a powerful way to have a voice in our healthcare and get the care that is right for all of us, both now and in the future. At present, too few people engage in these conversations, and their wishes are not included in the health record. The one thing people should know about the research that Dr. Sudor conducted is that over 12 months or so in our study, we found that 98% of the people who reviewed an easy-to-read advanced directive and the Prepare for Your Care website increased their engagement in some form of advanced care planning, such as thinking, talking, or documenting their wishes. There was also a dramatic increase in advanced care planning documentation in their medical record from 8.5% at baseline to 43%. So in fact, that was two things. I guess it's a little cheating there, but again, those are the things that the people need to know about the research. And then the implication of the research are that changing behavior is hard, but these results suggest that providing simple, easy to use resources with minimal investment from the healthcare system can drive significant improvements in engagement in advanced care planning. So by working out that messaging, again, that helped then set up not only her presentations to subsequent meetings, but also her presentations to the media and any talks that she was giving about the research more generally. So knowing your message, knowing your one thing is critical, and that's an important first step in a variety of communications activities, and particularly in developing an abstract that stands out from the crowd. Next slide, please. So to kind of turn our attention particularly to the abstract, you want to spend some time on your title, because if you think about your audience, this group of busy, or these busy abstract and reviewers and screeners, you'll want to make sure that at a glance that people understand what your research is about, and you want to make sure that title is message driven, as we've just described. You want to make, if you can, you'd like to make it declarative so that people can think about can understand very quickly what it is you've learned, as opposed to a more descriptive title that perhaps just reviews or describes the topic at hand, as opposed to what you've learned. And again, that points to the need to be results oriented. And indeed, if you can use some useful or relevant sort of creative play on words, that can be helpful as well. And of course, you'll want to connect to the theme and topic if that's at all possible. And if we go to the next slide, you can see some sample titles from the International Association or Academy, of Geriatrics and Gerontology meeting from 2017. And again, you see the use of a number of different techniques here. Again, the declarative titles that are used so that we can again understand quickly what the research is about. The use of questions that enable people to again get quickly into the topic and engage the reader and or the viewer, excuse me, as they review your abstract. And even something that's somewhat creative, for example, bidding the medical model goodbye, new ways of thinking about dementia, or is age more than a number, essentialist beliefs about aging predict how young or old people feel. So again, these are just some examples of how you can, again, create something that is declarative and catchy in your title, and therefore get the attention and help the reader or screener to get quickly into the science that you're presenting. Next slide, please. Of course, you're going to want to cover the ground in your abstract, and that will include, again, your background. This is the first question, why this matters. Particularly the thing that we didn't talk about in terms of the message was your methodology. So you will need to describe in your work, how you did that work and the particular some of the details in that process. Importantly, you're going to really want to focus on the findings, what we learned, the key results from the research, and then you'll want to describe the implications. So what does this all mean for the field? What does it mean for the research? What does it mean for practice and policy makers in ways that will, again, ground this new knowledge so that it can make a difference out in the broader world. Next slide, please. So there are a couple of dangers in all this, because you do have a very short, there's a lot to cover in the 150 words or perhaps the 250 words, depending on the abstract that you're presenting. The places where we see people sort of get tied up is that they spend a lot of time on the background. And again, you're going to want to provide a sense of why this is important. But again, you will not have the time or the space to provide a lot of detail in that regard, and you'll need one or two sentences perhaps that give a sense of the background, and particularly sort of why the work is so important and relevant, and how perhaps it connects to the theme at hand. The second place where people get hung up is around the methodology. Again, this is important because you want to demonstrate the rigor of your science and to help people understand sort of what exactly you did. But at the same token, if you spend too much time on the methodological details, the how, you you'll end up with short shift around sort of why the research is important and indeed what you found. And so that's pretty important to consider. And again, a second section where people really need to pay attention and to work hard at shaving down and condensing those methodological specifics as much as possible. Third, while you are trying to reduce the number of words or be careful with the number of words, you do have to be careful about using undefined acronyms, because again, there's a good chance that your reviewer is not deeply connected to the research that you're doing, and they may not know the abbreviation for a particular tool or an organization that you're referring to, and so you'll need to spell out those words or terms completely, and you'll want to make sure that if you do use an acronym that it's defined sufficiently, again within the context of a relatively limited number of words. And then finally, as you know from your scientific training, while you do want to kind of point to the importance of the work and the implications of the work, you certainly don't want to over-interpret or interpret the science and the learnings or the findings from the research in ways that are not responsible or rigorous and that overstate what it is that we can learn from the actual experiment or research that you've done. Next slide, please. Finally, it's really, we like to say that communications is a team effort, and in fact, you should certainly, any good abstract, any good writing will benefit from significant revision and rewriting, and that's oftentimes best done with the help of a mentor or a peer who can take a look at this and provide you with feedback that will help you shorten places or point to aspects of the abstract that are not clear enough or that are perhaps off topic in a way that is not particularly helpful. If you don't have a mentor or peer locally, or you'd like to be involved with GSA's emerging scholar and professional organization, ESPO, you can write to espo@geron.org by February 18th, and with your abstract, and they will assign a representative from that committee to provide you with a response and help engage you in improving your improving your abstract so that indeed it does stand out from the crowd and has the best chance possible for being accepted. So that kind of gives, again, briefly, a sense of sort of how you can write a compelling abstract, and the abstract process, of course, can be a bit of a mystery. So I'd like to turn it back to Holly, who will walk us through what happens after your abstract has been submitted and hopefully approved.
Thanks so much, John. That's great information. Once your abstract has been submitted, you can continue to make edits up until the March 14th deadline. Let me see. You won't have to pay again if you modify your existing submission, but once the deadline has passed, that no edits can be made after that point. So after the deadline, there's several important steps that will occur in order to build the program for the meeting in November. The first of these is the peer review process. So GSA members are recruited to review abstracts in February. So if you are a GSA member, please be on the lookout for an email to sign up for this duty. When members apply to be peer reviewers, they select 2 to 6 session codes for which they have expertise. Then the peer reviewers are randomly assigned to abstracts that have the same session code that they selected to review. Each abstract will be reviewed by 3 to 4 peer reviewers, and each reviewer will assign the abstract a score of 1 to 7 based on the review criteria. Your abstract must be based on original scholarship. Both empirical and theoretical conceptual contributions are welcome. Abstracts must report realized results, not anticipated results or educational activities, and/or summarize the major conclusions. So the following items are considered during the review process by the GSA section member reviewers. They look for a clear statement of research aims, scholarship, or educational objectives and the significance of this work. They look for specificity and appropriateness of the methods that you used for the work, the specificity of key findings or your results and/or the major conclusions, and clarity of the implications for the theory, further research, education, or practice. Finally, GSA is committed to the Reframing Aging project. The program committee has developed some guidelines that we recommend all submitters review and incorporate into their submissions. Once all reviews are complete, the program committee begins the decision and session building processes. The section representatives of the program committee will be assigned the abstracts submitted to their respective program areas. They will determine which abstracts to accept or reject based on the peer reviews. Once those decisions are made, posters and papers are grouped together into sessions. And typically this is done using the session codes and by grouping similar topics. The next step in the process is to schedule all the sessions. Owing to the volume of sessions, over 450 typically, it is a puzzle. We look at session codes first to avoid topic overlap, and then a first author conflict check is run to ensure no first authors are scheduled at the same time. Then this brings up the final step. Once the schedule is approved by the section representatives, notifications are distributed to the individuals who submitted the abstracts. We ask those individuals to share the notification with their co-authors. I really hope this description provided some insight into the full abstract process, and thanks so much for your time today.
Thank you, Holly. I'd like to take some questions from our audience in the webinar. Rachel, could you please share our first question?
Hi, Michael. It's Rachel again. We actually have not received any questions, so if anyone has any,
it means that everything is
right now.
very, very clear.
Exactly.
Or it's completely baffling, one or the other. Well, okay. During this hour, we have covered a lot of information. We are fortunate to have gathered these leaders as well as all of you for the webinar today. Thank you again, Holly and John. As a reminder, this webinar was recorded and will be shared via email and on GSA Connect. To keep the conversation going, please head over to GSA Connect to ask any additional questions you have. Thank you to our speakers and attendees today and to staff. We look forward to receiving your abstracts and seeing you in Austin for the GSA 2019 Annual Scientific Meeting.